Hi, it's the 29th of June, one of the last days of Pride, and I am filming this video because if you maybe remember at the beginning of the year, I filmed a video giving myself a challenge for 2025 on how many books I wanted to read, which was 36. And I thought it's the end of June, 6 months have passed by. Let's see how I'm doing. Mostly also I can see if I need to, speed up a bit. So I would say we should just, maybe get cracking. And if you need a reminder on what I said, here is a little bit of it. And then we'll go right into it. But I was like, okay, last year I read easily, I would say, about 2 books a month. Because I usually always read one book club book and one private book. And, some months I might have read only one if it was a thick book club book, for example, or maybe 3 if it was like thin books or whatever. But overall, I think about 2 a month, which would make 24. But obviously, I want to challenge myself. I want to read even more this year, but I ain't gonna go to 50. So I said 3 books a month. 36 books in all of 2025, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 3 books a month, which will be a challenge for me. I will definitely have to put everything, I don't know what even the saying would be here. I was going to say put the brakes on, but it's exactly the opposite of what I want to do. This is where sometimes my German brain does not know. Anyways, I'm going to have to get going, is what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna really have to stick to it, and I'll review it like half year, half. Sometimes I just cannot talk. After about 6 months and see where I am, and maybe I'll put it up. I will definitely not put it down, but yeah. Also, just to say, it is very hot right now in the UK. And usually very hot weather, so I am probably sweating. I don't have makeup on because it would just flow right off. And if I feel very sweaty, that is why. And yeah, amazing. Also, you might look at this video and go, she's not done videos for any of these books. Yes, I'm still very, very behind on my video editing. I'm working on it, but I'm still very behind. So these books will all be added. They've all been filmed already, I just have not edited them, literally. Because I always film my videos about a week, 2 after I've finished reading a book, but I've just not edited and published it. So, yeah, right. So here we go. The first book I read in 2025 was Middlesex. It's a book that I literally unwrapped the same day that I shot the video because it had been staring at me and I wanted to know what it was, and I did find out. I was very pleasantly surprised because the book was actually my TBR list. It was Middlesex is a book about a young woman from a Greek immigrant family who is intersex and eventually goes by Cal, a male narrator. And the whole book is essentially about her journey, as well as her parents' and grandparents' journey and the life they've been living. And yeah, it won a Pulitzer Prize. I don't know why. I didn't like it. I thought it was weirdly written. I thought that it weirdly felt like 2 books in one. I thought that the intersex aspects of the novels, which was the part that I was quite excited about, because you don't read really about intersex people, was very surface level and a little bit exploitative as well. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I think I rated it 2 out of 5. And the video for this is actually up, so you can, if you wanted to know more about why I hated this book so much, go and check it out now. I know a lot of people loved it. I am not a fan. Sorry, Jeffrey. Eugenides, who was the author. So let's just move to the next book, which I loved a lot more. The next book I read, although I may have read this book before Middlesex and finished it in the first few days of 2025. I cannot exactly remember, my memory is very shoddy. But Gender Games by Juno Dawson. It's a book about being a trans woman and finding your identity as a trans woman. I don't know how I'm saying that's a weird. Trans woman. Sorry, I can't say it. Trans woman. I can't say the word. Don't know why. I say it all the time. You'll just have to bear with it. But yeah, it's written by Juno Dawson, who was a YA author before their transition as well. She then transitioned into becoming a trans woman. And I loved the book. It was a 5-star read for me. It was funny. It was really emotive. I learned a lot about the trans experience, even though I was already very knowledgeable about it. I just loved it. It was a very honest, no holds barred biography, which I really enjoy. I enjoy when people talk about the good and the bad and the ugly. And it was really amazing to see Juno's journey from being a cis straight man to realizing, or maybe they're a cis gay man, living as a gay man, but then realizing that actually that's not who they are either. So yeah, it was just beautiful. 5 stars. Editing the video right now. Loved it. Great book. If you want to know more about being trans, definitely a good book to read. And Juno also has amazing other books that are actually on my TBR, and I didn't even know that. So yeah. The third book that came after that was a book called Jailbirds. All of these books, Gender Games and Jailbirds, In Their Shoes, which I read at the end of 2024, came out of my snazzy new library at our new work office, who had like their own library that you could just take books and then bring them back. So Jailbirds was amazing, but probably not as insightful as I had hoped it would be. So in Jailbirds is a novel that is written by a woman who I think was like a support worker in a women's prison. I don't remember what her actual role was, but I think she wasn't like a CEO or like prison officer or anything like that. But she like worked with young women that were incarcerated on like projects and things. And the book is a non-fiction book, but she's changed obviously all the names. But it was basically talking about different stories. It was done very much story by story that she would tell, and it was a beautiful story, a beautiful way to know more about women being incarcerated. There were a lot of facts that I found super interesting about the women who are incarcerated in the UK. But I think just overall, I just would have, I can't remember the author, I can't look it up right now, but I just would have really liked the author to maybe delve a bit deeper even, and a bit maybe go back, try and re-interview some of those people. I don't know. Because obviously she never collected the stories with the intent to publish them. I just felt that there was a little bit missing. Just it didn't quite translate to me the way, for example, Gender Games did. But it was definitely a good read, and I would certainly encourage people to read it, especially if they want to find out more about the penal system in the UK and how it works. I found it very interesting that apparently like the men's prisons were actually sometimes very much better funded and resourced than the women's prison, because there just aren't as many women prisoners. But yeah, it was just It was just a really great book, but not as great as I had hoped it would be. The next books I read was a 2-book deal. It was a couple of books that my husband picked up for me at the side of the road, because he knows I like thrillers, and they were thrillers. They were written by an author called Lars Kepler, which is actually an author team of a husband and wife. And I read them because I was pretty sure I would unhaul them, and I was like, gotta make space on my shelf, right? The first book I read was called The Nightmare. It was all to do with arms dealing, and there was like an amazing detective who was so smart, obviously. There was also the most infuriating and conflicting character I've ever come across in a book, by the name of Saga Bauer. And overall I didn't really enjoy that much. I think I gave it 3 stars. Don't come at me and say in the actual video is it 3.5. Yeah, I didn't enjoy that much. The second book was called The Stalker. This one was much more traditional, straight serial killer thriller, which is much more what I enjoy. Not that I didn't like the whole arm stealing thing, but I didn't enjoy I don't know, there were too many side plots and too many side characters, and I just found it really hard to keep up. Whereas The Stalker was much more straightforward. It was a serial killer was killing people in horrific ways. I was like, yep, I'm on board with that. There was a weird bit where it was related to these orgies that were happening, and I was like, I don't know what that is all about, and it didn't even go anywhere. But ultimately at the end the perpetrator was quite interesting to me, and I did quite enjoy the whole book. There was no Saga Bauer, only a little bit. And yeah, I thought that the main detective was quite interesting in it. He was a few years on from the first book. Lots of stuff had happened to him. It was one of those typical, led by a certain detective type crime books. And I think overall I rated 3.5 or 4. I did quite enjoy it. I got through it really quickly, and yeah, I did enjoy it overall. Not enough to not unhaul it though. The next book that I read, which I actually read throughout, so I usually tend to read multiple books at the same time. I'm not very good with reading multiple, of a very similar genre, but I usually always read an acting book, like a book about acting, together with a fiction book or non-fiction book that I'm reading for book club or for myself. So I had been reading this acting book called Freeing Shakespeare's Voice. It took me quite a long time to get through it. It's a great book to learn more about how to speak Shakespearean text, and how to get some insight into why text was written the way it was written, and uncode a little bit of Shakespeare's language. And it was certainly a very good book, but it also had a lot of exercises to do, and the exercises were usually quite lengthy. So that's why it took me a long time to get through the book, because it wasn't the sort of thing where you could just read it a little bit. You kind of had to then go and do the exercise, which took a while. But yeah, the book itself was really good. Really enjoyed it. Can't remember what I gave it. I might have not even given it a rating. I might have forgotten to do that. But I would probably give it a 3.5. It was a pretty good book, and it certainly taught me more about how to speak and analyze Shakespearean text. I then went into another audiobook. I'm not the biggest fan of audiobooks. I tried it with Think Again for Jacqueline Wilson. Didn't really enjoy it there. But then realized that I still had Midnight Library on Audible. Because I don't know, downloaded it ages ago and had never listened to it. So I was like, oh, let me listen to it. And I really liked it. I think I gave it a 4 star or 4.5 stars. Carey Mulligan's voice is mwah. It's out of this world. It's beautiful. And I felt like she was Nora, the protagonist of the book. I've really enjoyed it. I kind of liked the premise. I knew where it was going to end up, so I wasn't like disappointed in that way, and I think a lot of people were a little bit disappointed. I don't think it was perfect. It certainly had bits that could have been improved of it. It sometimes felt a little bit repetitive, but overall I really enjoyed it. I thought some of the writing was really great, and yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I then read a small novella linked to the God Fragment series, of which I had read The Stranger of Tempest. A fantasy book that I absolutely loved. The review of it is on my channel, so you can look that one up. I think I gave it a 4.5, but it was like almost 5 stars. It was amazing. I loved it. I have the whole series now, but this little novella was only available on Kindle, so I had to buy it on Kindle, or well, an ebook. I bought it on Kobo. And I really enjoyed it. I can't remember what I gave it, but I think I gave it like a 4 or 4.5. It was a very straightforward plot, because it was like a tiny plot, because it wasn't a whole book, it was just a novella. And I really enjoyed just diving back into the world of Lynx and Toil and all of them, because I have very fond of all of them, and it has become one of those book series that I don't want to read, because once I've read it, I've read it. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. Then there was another book that I had 2 of, but this one wasn't like 2 different books. This was actually 2 of the same. Because I had already had Thursday Murder Club as a paperback, and then over the Christmas party last year I got the hardback as well, and I was like, okay, I gotta read this, because this needs to come off my shelf, right? So I read The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I think that's his name. I'm famously bad with author names. This is not a diss on the authors. I liked it, but it was literally exactly what I expected going into it. Like there was nothing about this book that in any way surprised me or made me go, ooh, I hadn't expected it. Like there was obviously a twist, because it's a thriller, and I didn't see the twist coming, but also it wasn't like, what? Like it was like, okay, that's the twist. Like maybe I didn't care enough at this point that I was like, okay. Like I just thought that some of the characters were very stereotyped. There were some things where I was like, why is this like that? I think in the book review video, which I will post eventually, I actually talk about the fact that for about half a chapter I was way more invested in the 2 police detectives potentially having a relationship than anything else in the book, which obviously didn't happen because they had a big age gap between them, and that would be a big no-no. But I was like, I don't know, it just didn't excite me in any way. I think I gave it 3. It just, meh. I wasn't that big of a fan of it, if I'm honest. Sorry. Then there came another audiobook. Basically, I did a little challenge where I filmed myself going through my TBR list and trying to find the book at my local library, like the very first book I would find. Like I went down all the ones that were on my TBR list. I randomly decided by which thing I would go. I think I went by price, and then looked for it at my local library, and the book that my local library had was Chaingang Allstars, and I then realized they only had the audiobook, and I was like, But I then decided to listen to it on audiobook, and it was actually really lovely. And I think Midnight Library and Chaingang Allstars have actually converted me to audiobooks, because the narrators were nice, they were compelling, they were really good. The voices were really fitting and nice and lovely to listen to. And the book itself, Chaingang Allstars, it was a bit awkward because like the back of it literally has the plot of it on it. Like Loretta Thurgood is a prisoner. It's like Hunger Games, but with the penal system in the US, basically. So they get death row prisoners or prisoners who are incarcerated for a long time to be able to enter in these gladiator-style games. And Loretta Thurgood is basically the best of the best in these games. They all have like different like prison groups, so each prison has like its own gladiator gang. It's so hot. And her and Stax, Hurricane Stax, are in a relationship. They're in the same group. And hold on. So Hurricane Stax and Loretta Thurgood are lovers. They're in the same prison gang. And it's basically told you on the back of the book that it's gonna end up that Loretta is gonna have to find Hurricane Stax, who's like the second best. But then it feels like the whole book is like chartering a little bit of the life of Loretta and Hurricane and how they came to be. There's also some other secondary characters, and we found out more about them and how they are, more about a fighting duo from another Chaingang, as they are called. And it's like they're obviously gonna be the ones fighting Thurgood and Stax, and it's a little bit like very predictable, but like it's almost played as though like, oh my god, you know what's about to happen. Like you are supposed to be surprised by it, and you're like, yeah, I know this. You told me on the back of the book. Like the book is really great. I like it. I like the things it raises about the penal system in the US and the racism in it, and like some of the callousness and how horrible it is. There was also a side plot about protesting going out of control, but that didn't go anywhere. So all in all, I liked it. I think I give it 4 stars, but it wasn't perfect. I then read yet another audiobook. There will be a few more audiobooks coming, because I realized that an audiobook is a really easy way for me to read another book while reading a physical book. And I can actually read them quite quickly. I wouldn't read every book as an audiobook, but sometimes I'm like, you know what, that book I would read. So I was going through Libby, and especially because I mentioned it a few times, I get horribly travel sick. So whenever I have to go somewhere that's like by bus for like an hour, all I can do is either listen to music or listen to an audiobook. So it's usually an audiobook. I then went through Libby, and I realized that it had some of the amazing books by Octavia E. Butler. I knew I didn't want to read like The Parable of the Sower on audiobook, because I'd probably make lots and lots of notes. But she did write a book called Kindred, which is the first science fiction novel ever written by a black woman. And I read it, and I did enjoy it. I thought it raised some interesting things about, you know, black people going back in time to like antebellum periods, and like kind of like the interplay between slave owners and their slaves. I think it like certainly taught me a little bit about that period as well, but just it wasn't that, like, I don't know, it wasn't that, I wasn't that into it. There were some things that were a bit strange to me, so I think overall I gave it a 3.5 in the end. I didn't entirely totally love it, so yeah, sorry Octavia. Yeah. And yet another audiobook that I read that I had actually put on like hold at my local library for ages because it was on my TBR, and I was like, oh, interesting, I want to read it. And it's a book called I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. She's a TV star, one of the child TV stars from Disney. And her mother was extremely abusive, as came out after her mother died. And Jennette kind of confronted the abuse that she had suffered. And the book is narrated by her, an audiobook, which was very interesting. Her voice was very interesting to listen to, and have her actually tell you these things. It was an incredibly moving autobiography. Again, no holds barred. She was going through the good, the bad, the ugly, like her very like conflicted relationship, because she loves her mother but also like hates her for what she did to her, and she still has very conflicting feelings about her mother. And yeah, I just loved it. She was very descriptive about her eating disorders, her bulimia, the abuse that she suffered, almost matter of fact, which almost made it worse listening to it. But yeah, I loved it. Well, I don't know if I loved it, but I loved the book of it, so to say. And I really appreciated her telling her story and kind of owning it, and like clawing that power back from her mother. And I give it 5 stars because I don't know what else she could have done to make this book better for me. It was amazing. I really liked it. Yeah. And then I created a book club at my new workplace. And the very first book that they picked was called The Persians. It was a book that I had put on my TBR list already, and they also completely ignored my advice about don't pick a book that's quite new and quite recent because you're not going to be able to get it. But they completely ignored it, and I was like, okay, well, do that. And I actually managed to get a cheap vintage copy of it. Yay. Yay for used book sales. And I read it. I didn't like it. I rated it 2.5. I hated everybody. Every single person in that novel I did not like. I was like, why am I reading about these entitled, privileged people who use their money to pretend that they are better people than other people, and who, like, literally use... I started watching Succession while I was reading The Persians, and it was like I was reading Succession. They were horribly dysfunctional family. Everybody hated each other. Everybody stabbed each other in the back and had lots of secrets, and I just hated it. Even the people I initially liked, I ended up hating. So I didn't think, like, it also didn't, like, I expected it to really kind of open my mind and maybe view privilege in different ways, or to open my mind about Iran. And I did learn more about Iran, to give credit to the book, but it was like, I don't know, it didn't really do anything for me, so sorry. 2.5. And I should say that my book club, I really honestly thought I was going to walk in a book club and I was going to be like, I hated it, and everybody else was going to be like, oh my god, I loved it, I don't understand. And then, like, a couple of days before I was due to have that book club, we had a work thing, and I was chatting to my colleague who I knew was in the book club, and she was like, are you finding it? And I was like, I hate it. And she was like, me too. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy. But actually it ended up most people didn't like it. So I was like, well, yay, I'm not alone. So it wasn't just me. The next book club book was actually a very interesting pick. It was actually a weird one because there were 5 books that all received the same amount of votes, and I ended up pulling the winner from a hat because I didn't want to delay it anymore. And it ended up being a book called Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, Lessons from a Crematorium, which was an interesting book club pick. But I had voted for it. I had voted for about 3 of the 5 that ended up with the same votes. And I was like, okay. And Libby had it on audiobook, so I was like, don't even need to buy it. Amazing. So I've been listening to it. I'm almost all the way through. These last few books are not completely finished, but I'm there. I'm reading them. And yeah, I'm about 85% of the way through, so I think I'm far enough through to definitely make a judgment. I don't know how many people in my book club will actually read the book, because it is very descriptive about dealing dealing with dead bodies, cremation, very, very honest and descriptive, which in a way that's what the book is trying to be, because the book is all about the fact that we as a society have kind of banished death from our lives, even though we are all going to be affected by it and we're all going to be dead eventually. And the author is very much trying to revolutionize the way we talk about death and view death and stuff, and to be a lot more confronted with it and see it and realize it's not this big, big, scary thing. Like, it is big and it's scary, but it's a part of life, right? And she delves a lot into how other cultures celebrate or mourn their dead. And it is 100% a book that made me reconsider my previously held beliefs and my notions. And there is a bit in it where she talks about a cannibalistic tribe, and I was like, oh, ew, cannibals. But then she explains how they use cannibalism to mourn their dead, and then I was like, oh, it's actually a deeply it comes from a loving place, and it made me reevaluate the way I think about death. And I've never been a person who's afraid to think about death or talk about death, but I'm certainly part of the people who are I certainly was never a person who I want to be embalmed. I wanted to be cremated for a long time. I was kind of freaked out by embalming, I won't lie. Nowadays I want to be just in one of these eco pods. But it's even for me, I was it really made me reevaluate the way I thought about death and about dying and about being around death, and how we've changed as a society. Hey Freya! Running over my feet. Yeah, amazing book. I think I'm at 4.5 so far. Because I love books that make me think and make me change my mind or open my mind and make me view new things, which was exactly what I had hoped the Persians would do, but didn't at all. So yeah, amazing. Then I'm about halfway through. I actually shot the halfway through video last week. A book called Uta Hagen, Respect for Acting. Uta Hagen is a very prolific acting tutor and acting teacher, and she is very prominent, and she wrote a book called Respect for Acting, and I've read it years ago, but I'm rereading it, and yeah, it's very good. She talks about different exercises actors can do, because as an actor, you kind of always need somebody opposite you to act, right? And she kind of comes up with exercises you can actually do on your own to kind of practice acting, if that makes sense. She talks about different things like emotional memory, sense memory, how to act with a fourth wall, and these sort of things. And it's very, very amazing and great to talk about. I think I've read it before and I gave it 4 stars. Nowadays I would probably give it 3.5. But it is certainly an amazing book and great book for actors to read. Then I also started a new project where I'm reading the 3 books that over the past couple of years I have given 5-star ratings to, which there aren't a lot of books that I give 5 stars to. And they are Me and White Supremacy, The Vanishing Half, and Bellies. And I'm currently reading Me and White Supremacy. And I got a little book club, a sub book club at work going. So we've got our official book club book, but then this book club is just about Me and White Supremacy, because Me and White Supremacy is a book written by Layla Saad. It was based on an Instagram challenge she created years back. and people really resonated with it. It's all about white people owning up to their privilege, recognizing their own unconscious, subconscious racist bias, and learning how to be less racist, essentially. And I read it 5 years ago, so I've read it before. It was a 5-star read. And it changed my life. Like, I'm not kidding, it changed my life. Because I was always the kind of person who was like, I'm liberal, I'm anti-racist. But reading her book, and I think I was in the right moment where I had recognized that I was holding some beliefs that were holding me back from really engaging with anti-racism. And I worked through her book. It's a workbook, so it's not like a book, you know. It's very much like it's a chapter, like a chapter a day, and then you read it, and then you have to journal, and then you have to go in depth into yourself as a person and into your bias and discuss your bias. And I did it 5 years ago. It was amazing. It was life-changing. Made me recognize so many of my own behaviors and things. I'm going through it again. It's still a 5-star read. And I'm definitely way, way further along, but that doesn't mean that I no longer hold any racist bias, or am no longer or am like, I don't think the work is ever done. You're gonna read this book in 20 years, and I'm gonna be even further along the journey, but I don't think I'll ever be able to completely eradicate the way that the system has taught me to be racist. But I can certainly do my best to be as little racist as possible. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for and what I'm striving for. And yeah, amazing book. You should go read it. It's amazing, but you need to be ready to do the work, and it's really good to do it with a group, so you can kind of discuss your own findings. But it has to be people who are gonna be upfront about it and who are not gonna be afraid to own up to their own shit, basically. And then there's Jeffrey Deaver. I started reading this book months ago now. I started reading it because there was a lull and I didn't have any book to read, and I was like, this book had been staring at me with just the name Deaver, because that's the author, and it bugged me, and I did it in my cover video, and I rated it a 1 because the cover was shit. And the back of it was shit as well, as I discovered when I got it. I can get it, bear with me. Yeah, I'm literally about to shoot my leg halfway through, so this is the cover, the back of it. How long does it take to die? Tick. His victims would say forever. Tock. At each horrific scene he leaves a clock ticking. He calls himself the Watchmaker, and it's only a matter of time before he strikes again. It's rhyme time. I was like, dude, seriously? I was not with it. I thought, for sure, gonna unhold this book, whatever. But I then started reading it and was actually quite interested, because in one of the first chapters, if not the first chapter, you find out the name of the serial killer, or the killer. You find out, like, it's written from their perspective, as a duo. And I was like, I've never heard that before. And I honestly, I'm now halfway through. I'm currently actually really enjoying it. Like, I had to pause reading it to read the Persians, and I paused it like just as a character might have died, and I was like, oh no! And I was like, well, clearly I care enough about this character that I'm like, oh no! So it can't be that bad, and I'm actually really enjoying it. I think the writing in the book is completely different from the writing on the outside, which leads me to believe that was written by some weird marketing goons. And I'm actually really enjoying it. I'm liking the book. I'm liking the kind of the plot and the killers, and I like the people in it. There's like a Lie to Me, like human lie detector woman in it now, and I'm a massive fan of Lie to Me. That show should have so gone on. Anyways, So I'm about halfway through, so I'm not going to give a rating, but I am reading it. So it's going on the list, and I've had to like pause it while I had to read The Persians, but now I'm reading it again at the same time as Uta Hagen. So I'm two-timing them. And I hopefully will finish it soon. As most thrillers, it's quite thick, but oh well. And then the last book, that is like the queued up audiobook that I started reading and then had to stop reading to do the audiobook for my book club pick, Smoke Gets in Your Eye. But it's called Keanu Reeves Does Not Love You. And interestingly enough, I'm reading a lot of non-fiction, you know, I'm Glad My Mom Died, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, Jailbirds, and this book. I should do a little thing about how many non-fiction and fiction books there are. And it's all about online romance fraud and things like that, and I found it very interesting so far, from the little that I've listened to. You know, it's written quite wittily, quite funnily, but also with like a lot of compassion. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, and I can't wait to continue reading it. Right, so these are all the books I have read or am currently actively reading. None of them are queued up to read or anything like that. They are all books that I'm basically actively reading. And there's 18 of them, which means I'm exactly halfway through my 36 books. I think now that I've realized that audiobooks are my friend, I'm hopefully maybe gonna race ahead, because I've really only actively started to listen out to audiobooks like over the past few months or so. I also did a little thing. So there's 18 books, 7 of them are non-fiction, which are Jailbirds, Gender Games, I'm Glad My Mom Died, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, Freeing Shakespeare's Voice, Me and White Supremacy, Keanu Reeves Doesn't Love You, and Uta Hagen, Respect for Acting. 2 of them are obviously also related specifically to acting. There's also 1 novella, and 6 of them are audiobooks. So I think that's quite a spread, especially considering that pre-2025 me mostly liked reading fiction and didn't really like audiobooks. So I think that's quite impressive. And it just made me wonder if, had it not been for audiobooks, would I only be at 12 books? Which would be about my previous 2-month average. So that's not surprising. So let's see what the rest of 2025 brings, and I will do another video at the end of 2025 or the very beginning of 2026. How scary is that? To talk about, like, did I achieve it or did I not? I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna make it, because audiobooks have really helped me.